There you go. Gotta have that.
All right, welcome, folks. Mil-Spec Ops Monkey here. This is going to be this is a Tuesday kind of throw-in Monkey Nation. I've got Chris Weatherman with the Angry American with me today, and we're just going to hit it live fire in terms of talking about prepping, the current situation. Things are going on around the world. I can't think of a better expert to be talking with than Dances with Wolves himself. The Angry American, Chris Weatherman. Welcome to the show, my man. How are you?
Good, brother. How you doing today, man?
I'm doing fantastic. Now, a lot of folks, unless they are an avid fan or follow the show alone, they wouldn't get my Dances with Wolves.
Yeah, no, they
reference.
The best part of that is one of my buddies did a Photoshop of the cover of Dances with Wolves with my, my
Nice.
face on it. It was hilarious. So.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, and for those not familiar with that, so Chris you were on season 1 of Alone, right?
Yeah, season 1.
And just kind of a little background on the story. You were they put all these individuals out on very isolated, remote islands that were populated with other species, and so yours just happened to have some wild wolves. A big wolf pack up on the ridge behind you, and you got to sleep the night one eye open. Was just waiting for one of them to come in.
Actually,
and grab
I never slept because they decided to come off the ridge and into camp to see what that funny smell was, and they stayed there. They would not leave, and me and dogs don't always get along as it is. I mean, I've been bit by canines and friends' dogs and everybody else's dog you can imagine. So I was a little nervous about that.
Yeah, because a pack of wolves is even worse than just a regular set of dogs. I mean, a regular set of dogs, you can take puppies in a pack form. They're lethal, man. Like,
domestic dogs will bite you. Wolves will bite you and eat you. There's a big damn difference.
Yeah, so. Exactly. Yeah, they want to take away parts for the rest of the pack and themselves.
Yeah.
So it's pretty wild, man. So, well, anyway, welcome to the show, man. It has been a minute since you and I have talked, and we were watching the world unfold around us, and I thought, man, I got to get you back on the show. Let's talk and just what is going on. What are your thoughts on what's happening around the world right now?
I talk with Alan Kay a lot, season 1 winner. He and I are very good friends, and the way we see it is we've always talked about, we're in the perfect storm. It's the perfect, everything, this and that is perfect. Well, we legitimately we are in the perfect storm. We've got massive inflation. We've got all these supply issues and stuff with China keeping cities locked down. They've got thousands of ships tied up off their coasts. We've got this Roe versus Wade thing that's hit the streets now and I don't think that was by accident. I think that was purely by design because they needed another summer of rage. This is going to be the midterms later this year. They know the left knows they're going to take a thumping in the midterms. And so they're going to do anything they can to try to disrupt that, in my opinion. And they've already started. We had this little shooting in Buffalo the other day, which was terrible. Dylan Roof kind of wannabe idiot. But what the media is not talking about is the church shooting that happened in California by a Chinese national that targeted Taiwanese people. not even talking about that because it doesn't fit the narrative. So they're not going to talk about it. So this is literally 1984. The only information you get today is the information that the government spoon feeds you, that they want you to have to keep you on their narrative, and ignore the rest of it,
Yeah.
And the rest of it is what you really need to be looking at.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think there are a lot of people that are just completely unprepared for this. Now, I know a lot of our audience, they get information bombarded by us on things they need to do and things, actions we should take and what we shouldn't be doing. But the masses in general are highly dependent on the government. They feel like that if things go south, the government's going to come in and save them. And I don't think most of them know really what's coming. And so you talked about the boats or the ships that are all sitting off the shore of China. I am starting to see that here in the U.S. In terms of shortages. Like, I'm watching prices go up. I'm watching items that we would need in everyday life to just do our normal stuff. You can't get it. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, back when I guess Clinton really, with his era, is when that really ramped up as far as offshoring. And I don't know if you remember those days when the news would talk about like a steel mill where the Chinese came in, they disassembled the mill and took all of our equipment to China, and they now produce that steel in China at a fraction of the cost. We eviscerated our industrial base. We do not have one here. Made in America, hopes and dreams, about the really only thing made in America anymore. And the people of this nation are so dependent on that just-in-time inventory thing, which now they're discovering is massively flawed. It seems, and as much as I hate them, it seems like Amazon's the only company that can function right now and get product to people. I get videos and pictures sent to me all the time by readers of grocery stores that are empty. I mean, of a Walmart, this guy walked down the freezer case of a Walmart and the whole thing, it was empty. There was nothing in it. Yeah. They can't get stuff. And then we look at all these, the conspiracy theory of all these, 56 different plants, food processing facilities now, one variety or another that burn.
Yeah.
I tell people nothing is coincidence. All right. One thing, that's something. Okay. Two happens. That's an anomaly. That's three is the beginning of a pattern. Once you're 56 deep, that's no longer an anomaly or coincidence. And I recommend to people all the time to read Suvorov's book, Spetsnaz, because it lays out how these kind of things are being done. And I would imagine there's malactors here in the U.S. that are doing this. Just like all those fires that keep happening in Russia so far from Ukraine, fuel depots, ammo depots, petrochemical plants and stuff like that, power plants. They just lost a $560 million coal burning power plant that burned the other day in Russia. And the same sort of stuff's happening here. We look at it happening in Russia and going, oh, yeah, the Ukrainians are getting there and doing a little sabotage. Good for them.
Right.
Meantime, the same shit is happening in our country. We're looking around going, oh, that's just odd. Huh.
Yeah.
The disconnect is astonishing to me.
Yeah, it is. Well, and the mainstream media is really not talking too much about these food plants burning down. Like they're just kind of not eyes on it. They're not even talking about the ships that are sitting off the coast of China that haven't moved in almost 2 months.
Yeah.
Now, one thing I will tell you as I go through my shows and my sit reps, I'm watching the water, so to speak, right? And and I see the L.A. port and Long Beach emptying out. Like there's about six or eight boats still just sitting there, cargo ships. I don't know if they need to be loaded or they're just sitting there because they know if they go to Shanghai, they're just going to be sitting. So why not sit off the coast of the U.S. for right now, right?
Much better to sit off the coast of the U.S., but I would be curious. I would like to see a current sat image of those ports. I'd like to see what the container stocks look like in there.
Yeah,
because those ports typically there's thousands, there's tens of thousands of containers piled in these ports typically. I'd like to see what that looks like right now. That would be a big tell to me.
That is a good
because that's import and export. So that stuff leaving and coming.
Yeah,
and we know nothing is.
No, we're seeing it. A buddy of mine that's a HVAC dealer in, I say dealer, he's a commercial, he works in the HVAC commercial side of things, was telling me that Freon, he used to get 25-pound thing of Freon would cost them about $125. He said it's $550 now, and that and they can't even hardly get it. They're having to go like 100 miles away to even find it. So it's
I've got a buddy in the same exact industry, and he said he goes, now I feel more like a commodities trader than anything. He goes, I spend my entire day on the phone trying to source material from all over the world, wherever he can find it. He's just trying to find. Yeah, and I've got another buddy that's an industrial insulator, same thing. Any sort of foil wrapped insulation, completely unavailable in this country. Can't find it.
Yeah.
And this is stuff that we need to utilize to continue building things, right? And doing repairs, maintenance, and upgrades. So what's that tell you? We already know the price of lumber is through the roof, the price of construction is through the roof, but the worm's turning on that. The housing market has already started to turn. I was just at my local credit union the other day talking with them about some stuff, and they told me that they had not written a new purchase deal for a home in their branch in over 30 days.
Wow.
When they were doing 3 to 5 a day 3 months ago.
Yeah.
And they haven't written a single one in over a month, not one.
Yeah. Yeah. I have read also that bubble's about to pop.
It's already popping. Is what they told me. She told me that they fully anticipate mortgage rates to go back up to 10% where they were in the 70s. That's the financial industry saying that they're anticipating to see 10% interest rates.
I could see that. Well, I'm watching cars. There are people that there's a Mercedes-Benz pickup or a pickup. It's called a G-Wagon. It's a square box looking Mercedes. Yeah. They're paying $100,000 over invoice right now to get that car. And the car's $130K and they're paying $100,000 over invoice. I had somebody tell me that. I just couldn't believe that there were people stupid enough to do that.
Well, you remember for like the last 6 months, the used car market has been through the roof. Dealers buying used cars for far and above their book value simply to have something on their lot. We have a Buick dealer, I think, here in town, or Oldsmobile or something like that. That lot is literally empty. I think they have 5 cars sitting on that lot total, and they're probably all used cars. You simply can't get nothing. And this is the big stuff that we can see. Now, we can talk about like the baby formula thing where we can't seem to find it in this country, but it's stockpiled on the border for the illegals because, they're not going to be here long anyway. So they just need a little bit of formula. But the rest of the country can't find it.
Yeah. But you can go to Canada and get it. I've heard that you can go look at Amazon Canada and you can buy it all day long.
You can get off to conspiracy land real quick, but it really does feel like the pressure is deliberately being applied.
It does.
And then you have this shooting in Buffalo where this idiot goes in and shoots a bunch of people for no freaking reason. Yeah. And so now what is the media talking about? You go anywhere, any article, open up any news channel, all you hear about is the conspiracy of the Great Replacement thing. Okay.
Yeah.
And that guy probably prescribed to that nutty idea, but now they act like every Republican and GOP member on the face of the earth believes in this Great Replacement thing. Yeah. I can see why people believe in it. You can look at our southern border and be like, why are we letting millions of these people into our country? Yeah. They don't have to wear masks when they come in. There's baby formula there for them. They're being transported and delivered all over this country and just dropped off. That's not how immigration is supposed to work in this country. I'm all for immigration. I have no problem with immigration. The guy that does all my IT, he hosts my servers and runs my does all that stuff for me. He's Colombian. He legally immigrated to this country. His name's Jose, and he's a great guy. But he did it legally. Yeah, he did the process, and there is a process. Yep. And how is it that it's America's fault that there are poor around the world? We can't take care of our poor. We damn sure don't need to be importing more of them.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's part of that World Economic Forum. Their agenda is that forced migration, right? So they are just pumping people in. The same thing's happening. Ukrainians are getting pushed into all these different parts of Poland and Hungary and Bulgaria, and it's not good. So let me ask you, what do you see on the horizon? Say the next 90 days to maybe even 6 months.
I think the summer of 2020, I think we're going to see a resurgence of that. It really depends on if they can tamp down this Roe versus Wade stuff, because even Supreme Court's like, that wasn't a decision. That was internal discussion on this thing. So the left is using that as their rallying cry for them, because they went with the BLM thing a couple of years ago because it garnered a lot of attention and it focused a lot of people. But when you bring in the abortion debate with them, that transcends race, religion for them, sex, everything. That is the holy grail to them. And so they know that, never let a good opportunity or a good crisis go to waste. And so they're going to capitalize on that. I think the violence that we're going to see is going to be becoming more severe. And the food shortage thing is going to happen. They're predicting now that Europe will see 20 million African refugees fleeing Africa, trying to get into Europe because Africa is going to be starving to death. Russia is expropriating all the grain out of Ukraine, millions of tons of grain. So we already know there's going to be a grain shortage. And then you've got the U.S. Ag Department was paying farmers here to plow under crops and not harvest them. So that makes zero sense to me. And actually, not only that, not only would they pay them to plow them under, they would penalize them if they did harvest it.
Yeah. Yeah.
How does that work?
Yeah.
So, in my opinion, I think food shortage is certainly going to become a thing. I think energy prices are going to continue to increase. Wages are not going to keep up with it because inflation is going to continue. So everyone's going to feel the squeeze. Anything you buy today will be cheaper than it will be tomorrow.
Yeah.
So, and anything you buy this week will be a hell of a lot cheaper than it will be next week. That's
if you can get it.
if you can even get it. They're talking about the diesel fuel shortage on the Northeast corridor. It's crazy that we control the extraction of oil, the production, transportation, distribution of all this stuff, but yet we don't control the price of oil.
Yeah.
And the diesel fuel thing is one that's always struck me as odd in the world, or in this country, because diesel in the U.S. is always more than gasoline.
Yeah.
Anywhere else on the planet, diesel is always cheaper than gasoline. It's less refined. It's cheaper to make. But here, it costs more.
Yeah.
Because this country runs on trucks.
Yeah.
Anything that you have in that room you're in, or the room I'm in looking around, anything in here was on more than one truck to get here.
Yeah.
So
100%. And that's the litmus test I had. I was telling yesterday my sit rep was that just look at the items around you and just anything you can touch right now. And I'm willing to bet you 90% of it came out of China.
Oh yeah, 90% of it came out. Yeah, for sure. 90% of it came out of China.
Yeah.
At least we're starting to build chip plants again. We're starting stuff like that, but we need to get back to restore the real industrial base of this country. We need steel mills. We need all that stuff to be able to manufacture here. Part of the problem, though, is this current environment of the country is we have so many people who feel that they're entitled to things, that simply because they exist, they should have, all the money they want and the housing they want and the car they want and drive and wear the clothes they want, but they don't have to earn it. They deserve that simply because they exist. Yeah. I always use the analogy of the laws of nature. In nature, you get guarantees, only two guarantees. You can be born, that's not even a guarantee, but if you are born, all right, you got that one. The only other guarantee nature gives you is that you're going to die. Simple. That's it. That's the only thing you get. The rest of it is up to you to do. And our current situation, and our government in particular, tells you nothing is your responsibility, nothing is your fault. If something happened to you, it's someone else's fault, and you need to call yet someone else to come take care of it. It's not your problem.
Yeah.
And so we've got a society that's incapable of, number one, critically thinking for themselves. Problem solving is out the window, and they lack interpersonal skills to be able to de-escalate things that don't need to be a big deal, and prevent violence. I believe that's a big piece of it too. As people, we talk on computers, or we text and we tweet nasty things and we say ugly shit on Facebook to people, and we have forgot how to actually talk with people, and how something that you could say to me online might make me mad, but if you say it to me in my face, I might break your nose for it.
Right.
And they seem to forget these things.
Yeah, yeah, they hide behind that computer. Yeah,
Yes.
we get the trolls in the chat here all the time that are just blasting away at people, but you know, they only do that because they've got the safety of, you know, a computer screen between them and the person that's
anonymity. You know,
yeah,
that's what
exactly.
they think.
Exactly.
They think they're anonymous, but in today's world, we also know you're not anonymous. You say something on Facebook, I can find you. You know.
Oh yeah.
You can
Yeah.
find me. We can be found. You know.
Yes, we can. Absolutely.
It's not that hard.
No, it is not. So let me ask you. So we talk about the food shortages. I'm with you. Africa is going to be one that is going to be probably one of the first. Sri Lanka right now is going through major shortages, civil unrest. Matter of fact, they've been told, the police there have been told basically shoot to kill. Like they're not even, like they're just not messing around with it at all. So it's they've taken it to a whole new level of crowd control.
Well,
right?
they said there's an article yesterday, I think it said Sri Lanka is completely out of gasoline.
Yeah.
Nationwide, they're out of gasoline.
That's insane.
Yeah. And you're right. Now the government, because the people are pissed and they're rising up, the government's going to do what the government does best first and foremost, which is protect themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
I love to hear people say, you know, like, well, what's the purpose of government? I said, government has one purpose: to perpetuate its existence and grow. That's it. That's government's whole purpose. It ain't to do stuff for us. It ain't to take care of us. It is to keep itself alive and to increase.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
You know, and the way they increase is by encroaching further and further and taking more and more liberty from us.
Yeah.
I'm a huge proponent of individual liberty. I talk about that a lot and tell people to try to seize back individual liberty at every opportunity whenever they have the chance. So,
yeah.
but that's what government's doing. So as you can see in Sri Lanka, that's the extreme. You know, the people are unhappy. They're hungry. You know, Iran, wasn't it? Didn't they just up the price of wheat again? And the people were protesting in the streets there because the price of bread's going up again. You know, so it's going to be a global perfect storm, in my opinion. Because as bad as it will be for us here, it's going to be 10 times worse everywhere else. Yeah,
that's what I think. I think we will more than likely see these events start to take shape externally, and then it'll slowly start to come in, and before you know it, it'll be here. And I think we're already seeing it in Sri Lanka. We already see things going on in certain parts of Africa. We see it.
Iran.
The
protests.
And it's all just slowly bubbling. And I think probably in the near term, probably next 30 days, we will probably start to see the shortages or the impacts from the China shortage stuff hitting here. And then right before the election, I think around between August, September, October, we'll start to see that perfect storm hit here where people will be taken to the streets. I think you'll see the social unrest here just in time for the election.
I think it'll happen before then.
You think it'll happen before then?
I don't think we've got that much time before the real violence escalates. We're already starting to see Antifa show up in places and starting to do some of their stuff.
Yeah.
I also think that this summer will be another summer of color revolutions. Nothing starts a revolution faster than hungry people. Fact. You know, when people are hungry and their children are starving, that's when stuff really goes down. If you remember, the Arab Spring was all started by one guy in Tunisia who immolated himself because the government had raised the price of food.
Yeah.
And he was a food vendor. And so that's what started that whole thing. We're going to see some more of that. And I think, of course, because no crisis goes to waste, our CIA is sitting back right now just doing like this, looking at regime change in all these different places where they think they can pull it off.
Yeah, they are.
Which none of our business. We should stay the hell out of it. But
I agree.
We gave the world to China, and that's what they need to be focusing on, is taking that back.
Yeah, for sure. Now, what are your recommendations for people kind of going forward as this thing starts to get crazy? How do you keep people out of that storm? How do you keep them, kind of at home? We know you and I have talked about bug out versus bug in, that it's always better to bug in than it is to bug out, because for obvious reasons. I mean, you get out on the street in a bug out situation, and now you've got to find shelter, food, water. I mean, everything you've got to do, you've got to try and replicate, and security.
Well, and security, that's the thing. So, people talk about bugging out. If you're a solo bug out guy, your life expectancy is pretty short unless you're damn good. There's some guys that can pull it off.
Yeah.
But you got to go to sleep at some point. That means you got to close your eyes and you're not there, and anybody can walk up on you. Staying at home is the best thing, and prepare your home. So stock food, stock food as much as you can. If you have the space to get a garden going, get it going now. You're not gonna, on game day, when the balloon goes up, you're not gonna run to the closet and pull that seed vault out with those bags of seeds that you don't know what region of the country they're actually designed to grow in, and go out back and dig your backyard up and suddenly you're a farmer. It doesn't work that way. Gardening is a skill, an art, and you need to learn now. So store as much food as you can, but what people are short-sighted on when they talk about storing food is like, well, I've got a year's worth of food. That's fantastic. I mean, really, no, that is good. But what are you going to eat on day 366?
Yeah.
You've got to have a plan. Sustainability is the thing. And you hear the left use this term all the time too, but for us, it means a different thing. I want to be able to sustain my lifestyle, feed my family, and not have to live terribly uncomfortably in light of what's coming at me. So storing food, a means of producing water. That's a big one. America is a nation of cul-de-sac communities. I hate those more than anything I can even describe to you. Because if there's a simple fact, if you do not have water where you live, like a ready source that you can reach out and get water, when the bad thing happens, you're going to have to go to where water is.
Yeah.
It's just a fact, or you will die.
Yeah.
So securing a water supply is always is number one thing to us. Even when we talk with people about homestead locations and they're looking at one, the very first question we ask them is, where's the water?
Yeah.
Like I'm doing an upgrade here on my house. I'm putting in a solar well pump and a hand pump, both, so that my well can be running whether the power's on or not. I'll still have water in my house.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. So food, water, medicines if you can. And one thing people overlook and forget about too, especially considering fuel prices and the potential of what's coming, clothing and footwear, shoes.
Yeah.
99% of the shoes made in this country today are made for fashion and appearance, not for durability. When you go from a lifestyle where you jump in your Tesla and you zip around town, you never have to walk anywhere, and you go to a world where you have to walk everywhere you're going, you're going to find out real damn quick that the shoes you own aren't up to the job. They're not going to be able to do it. And not to mention, your clothing is your first layer of shelter also.
Right. So
appropriate clothing, spend the money now and buy some better quality stuff. Stock up on that food, get some water storage, store medicines. I would also convert any liquid capital that's not critical to your daily lives. If you've got some discretionary income, I would start converting some of that to PMs personally, or ammo, something you can trade later, even alcohol. Stuff. Yes, because bartering and trading will become a thing. Skills are also very barterable. So if you have good skill sets, that's something else you can trade. So I'm very pessimistic about the midterms and what's coming. I just have a feeling that leading up to it, the Democrats are going to be desperate, very desperate. And things are going to get ugly. And they're going to put their foot soldiers to work. That's what Antifa and BLM and all of them are. They're just the foot soldiers to go out to scare the right so that we'll capitulate, as the right always does, to give them what they want.
Yes, very true. They always do. And they'll put their mules to work too, if you know what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah, thousands of those.
Yes.
Have you watched that? 2,000 mules? Dude,
I have.
Is that not one of the most just sickening, disgusting things you've ever seen in your life? Did it just make you physically ill to watch that?
It does. It does. And you know what's crazy is I was talking to Skyglass yesterday. We were talking about some of the surveillance activity that they used. And I had actually done the same thing. Skyglass and I can actually go back in the history of flight apps and track the aircraft that are doing the man-in-the-middle towers on election day right around voting centers. And so we were doing that. Wow. I actually remember showing some of the Arizona stuff going on, how the PC-12 aircraft came bubbling right at around the time of voting. And then when they were doing the audit, all of a sudden it showed back up again, out there, man in the middle, doing their data grabs. So yeah, it's absolutely incredible, the corruption that we have in this country, and that's the thing. What are your recommendations based on that, and knowing that the government is going to take care of the government first? Say, I've had people ask me, what would you recommend first 3 days? What do you do in a situation? Say power's out. You're trying to assess the situation. Cell towers are down. What are your thoughts?
Well, that's why everybody, in my personal opinion, should have a shortwave radio, battery powered shortwave radio. Because Intel, so that's the biggest thing the government has control over. That would be a serious mitigating factor to the citizenry of this country is information.
Yeah.
So we know that the internet has kill switches. We know cell phones have kill switches. And if the power goes out, most of those things go away anyway. And if it stays out, then they're definitely going to go out. Yeah. So having a shortwave radio where you can get some sort of information, even if it's not from this country, shortwave picks up broadcasts from all over the world. My shortwave radio, I can put my antenna up and listen to the BBC,
Yeah.
So having information, what I would do is the first 3 days is stay home, gather as much intelligence as you can, information, peeking out the windows a lot, watching, seeing what is happening in your neighborhood, but have your house set up so that you can stay inside. You've got food, water, you've got a way to defend yourself and a way to gather intelligence. Ham radios are great for that. I highly recommend everybody get a license to use a ham radio. Buying your Baofeng and keeping it in the box until game day, and then taking that thing out and thinking you're going to start talking to the world. Oh no, you are not going to do that. Those are great little cheap radios, but they're also one of the most complicated son of bitches on the planet to program. So
yes, they are.
But gather intel. That's why, I got HF, VHF, UHF. I can cover the gamut. I have several different shortwave radios because information is life. And you don't want to be behind the curve. So those first few days, be listening, see what's going on, trying to pay attention. The highways would probably be clogged. People would be freaking out and running. So you've either got to make that move before that happens, or you've got to wait until some of that dies down and then try to do it. And that comes with its own set of issues, because once everybody else's car runs out of gas and they're sitting all over the road, if you back your Explorer out of the garage and take off and you're moving, everybody's going to be looking at it and everybody's going to want it. So it's a tough thing to do. Having a group of like-minded people that you trust and that intimately is one of the best benefits you can have.
Yeah.
Because no man, no single family, no single woman is an island. You can't do this on your own. You will need help.
Yeah.
So, but I would tell people not to panic initially. Wait, gather some intel, try to form a picture, and gathering that intel is going to be the hardest part. It really will be, because the MSM controls the flow of information, which comes straight from the White House and other malign actors, in my opinion. And you're going to be told what they want you to know, which as we know, will not be the truth. You can go back to look at like 3 Mile Island when that went down, and they're saying, "Oh, no cause for alarm. Everything's fine. Just a little accident." And people are being irradiated like crazy. And the government's just like, "Oh no, you guys are fine. You don't need to leave. Just stay home. Stay inside."
Yeah. Yeah. Chernobyl was the same way, right? Everybody's just hanging out in their house, and it's they're thinking it's snowing outside, and it's actually radioactive ash coming down from a fire. That's
Yeah.
It's pretty.
They sent their own people in there, even knowing the situation. There's that great video of that helicopter flying directly over that reactor, and I've always wondered, how long did those guys live after that flight? After they landed that, and what happened to that bird? Because that thing was hot. It was hot.
Yeah, it was glowing white for a long time. 100%. Those guys are probably dead about the time they hit the ground and shut off the helo, man.
Yeah, and then when the Russians took over Chernobyl, they dug fortifications all around that thing. And when the Ukrainians got it back, they went in and did some sampling, and they're like, "Yeah, there's going to be a whole lot of Russians with radiation poisoning, because there was so much of it still on the ground, and they dug into it and lived in it."
Oh boy.
Oh yeah, there's going to be a lot of radiation poisoned Russian conscripts. So
yeah, wow, That's insane, and you'll never hear about it because it's
No.
over there. It's kind of like China,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So let me ask you this: in terms of water, I've read through several sources that they're saying you should have about a gallon a day is what you should plan per person.
Nowhere near enough.
Nowhere near enough.
Nowhere near enough. Think about it, especially this summertime. You're in Texas.
Yeah.
It's blistering hot in Texas. Okay. Um, your house that you live in probably is not designed to function necessarily without central air.
Yeah, it gets hot pretty quick.
It's not designed for airflow. You know, we don't have the lights above the doors. We used to have the little window that you could open to allow the airflow in. We don't have the 6-foot tall windows these days, and the houses are not designed to allow airflow through them.
True.
So your house is going to get hot as hell. All right.
Yeah.
And you're going to have the windows open and stuff and trying to be cool off. You're still going to be in there, you know, sweating hardcore, like a lawyer in hell. You're going to be sweating.
Yeah.
A gallon a day is not going to cut it. You're going to drink that gallon a day, but you still need to cook. You still need to maintain hygiene.
Yeah.
You still need to wash your dishes. So the gallon a day is a fallacy. And if you live in the desert, you could drink a gallon a day and still die because it won't be enough. So
right.
When it comes to water, I tell people it's like stored money. All of it you can, as much as you can. And I know it's not practical for a lot of people, but there's a lot of ways to do it. You know, 2-liter soda bottles, if you buy those, rinse them things out, fill them with water, stick them in closet, put them in the attic, stick them in the garage behind the dryer, stick them everywhere. You can get 15-gallon food grade barrels, which I buy those. You can fill those with water. One person can move that. It's heavy, but you can move it. And it's 15 gallons of water. 5-gallon jerry can, whatever you can get. Bathtub, the water bob things for bathtubs are great too. Fill it up. At least you'll have, 50 gallons of water in there maybe. But water is key and is critical. If you have gutters on your house, go out and look at how hard would it be for me to make a rain catchment system here? You don't necessarily want to do that if you have asphalt shingle roof. Metal roof is better, but I drink asphalt shingle water before I would die of dehydration. So, water's the hard thing to store. Liquids are the hardest things to store and transport because they're bulky, they're heavy, and you got to have a container. You have to have a container to do these things in. So containers are a big deal.
Yeah. By the way, you mentioned getting jerry cans. I don't know if you've looked at the price of those bad dudes on Amazon right now.
Absurd.
Insane. So let me tell you a little inside trick, and this is going to be. I don't know if you've gone to Uline and looked at it, but they've got their jerry cans on there that are running. They're about $10 a pop for a little 2.5-gallon jerry can. So.
Really?
Yeah, Uline. They've got a lot.
I use Uline. I buy all my shipping stuff from them, so I'm gonna have to go check their website out.
Yeah, I stumbled on it and I was like, "Whoa, wait a second here! They've got jerry cans on here that are 1/10 of the price of what they're going for on Amazon." So, yeah, go check that out for sure. What are your thoughts on? I hear a lot of people. I've got a buddy of mine that talks about gold and silver. Man, buy gold, buy silver. You're going to need that. And I told him, I said, man, the minute you walk out into public with that and try to spend a bar of gold, you're going to get pummeled.
Well, that's just it. If you're buying bars of gold or something to that effect, or even silver bars, I've always equated that as a storage of wealth because that's what you're doing. Okay. That will always have an intrinsic value and you can always use that. For me, it's like, I would have those for the day that I wake up and I turn on the TV and they're like, the dollar is dead. All hail the new dollar. And the exchange rate is 100 to 1. So if you had $100,000 in your bank account last night, you've got $1,000 in your bank account this morning.
Yeah.
Well, you can take those bars of silver and bars of gold and get a hell of a lot more new dollars with them, than you can using your old dollars.
Very true. Yeah.
So if you're going to try to get PMs for barter or buying stuff or things like that, you're going to want fractional sizes. So I buy gold in 10th-ounce coins. It's easier for me to do a deal with a $130, $140 coin than it is a $1,400 coin. Yeah. And then silver rounds are the same thing. 1 ounce round is pretty common, and the value you can work that out pretty easy. But in the beginning, that's not what people are going to want. In the very beginning, they may take that, but you get a month in. they're going to look at you and be like, I can't eat that.
Yeah.
I can't wear that. I can't shoot that out of my pistol to defend my family. I need something that I can eat, or I need some bleach, or I need some antibiotics. I need, I need some food. My kid needs a pair of shoes because those shoes that we bought him at Target just didn't hold up, and he's already outgrown it. Well, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
And so having barter items like that are going to be better, in my opinion. But if you store your stuff properly and take care of yourself, you won't necessarily have to be out there bartering. You don't want to be doing that, because that's fraught with its own set of dangers that, in my book, Decline and Decay, we actually have a chapter dedicated to bartering, the security aspects, the whole thing. Like, you don't keep all your trade goods. You don't walk up with a backpack with all your trade goods in it.
Right.
You're going to have some in this pocket, and some in that pocket, and some in your shirt pocket, some in your backpack, some here and there. And you can be like, well, I got this. You open your bag up and they look in there, they'll be like, oh, we'll take all that. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, they will.
So, and I think most people just, in America in particular, we're so far removed from real nationwide violence in this country. There's no one alive in this country today that knows conflict on this continent. And I'm talking severe civil conflict, not what happened a couple summers ago where the idiots were rioting. Those are just riots. Right. I'm talking where there's neighborhoods that will be locked down, that if you don't live there, they're going to shoot first and ask questions later. Yeah. And that's what it'll come to. And pretty quick too. Cul-de-sac communities I talked about, you're going to see trucks blocking entrances and guys with rifles standing around trying to keep people out. Yep. That's the sort of thing that I'm seeing we're heading towards.
Yeah, I would agree. You're going to have to secure your AO ASAP. And one of the first things you mentioned was having a crew that's tight, that you can run with, get that tight circle going, even, 4 or 5 guys. I look at mine, cause I've done the same thing. I've got a circle of guys that are all, former SF guys. And then I've got a surgeon in the mix, right? So I've got somebody that if somebody gets, popped, we've got the ability to perform some trauma and take care of them and hopefully get them back up. But yeah, that's the kind of thing that you got to kind of start thinking about, and you don't want to be doing that in the middle of a firestorm, right? You want to be doing that now.
Yeah. I mean, when you turn on the TV and they start telling you what the current disaster is, that's not the time to be trying to prepare for the disaster. Yeah. Be it, economic or, even wildfire stuff like in California. It always amazes me the way these people act. It's like, this shit happens every year here. You guys should be ready for this kind of thing. Yeah. And hurricanes in Florida, same thing. We're going to come in hurricane season. We're going to start seeing people losing their mind. The first time a storm shows up, Home Depot and Lowe's are going to sell out of generators. Okay. Yeah. That storm's going to pass. And then the parking lot will be full of return generators still in the box that they never even opened up, because that's how short-sighted people are. They'll buy the generator. They want to take it out of the box. If my power goes out, I got it. I'm good. I got my generator. Oh, power didn't go out. Take that thing back to Home Depot. Yeah. I have 4 generators at my house. I'd like to have some power.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. Matter of fact, I just invested and put a one of those natural gas generators on the side of my house that will keep everything powered on if everything goes down. And but it was not cheap. I had to sell a kidney to do it, and you know what I mean. They're proud of them. That's no doubt about it. But it'll be helpful. That's the thing with the home security piece. I see. A lot of folks, you got to remember too that you need to match your environment, right? So say I do have a power generator that would power everything here, but if I'm the only house on the street with lights on, I'm going to draw a lot of attention, right?
A lot of attention. And plus the sound of that thing is going to draw attention. So
yes,
one of the things that like here at my house, I have plywood cut for every window of my house that will fit in from the inside.
Nice.
And that's just to black out the house.
Yeah.
That's so that I can cover all the windows in here and no light gets out of this house. So I can be inside, lights on, doing my thing, but you ride by, it looks like a black house like everybody else.
Yeah.
Or if you look at it, it looks like a black house. And I know that's getting into the minutia of security and stuff. And a lot of people think that's overkill. And it is today, for right now, that's overkill. But for the day that I fear is coming, there'll be people looking around going, holy shit, get some garbage bags and let's cover these windows, get something, let's cover these windows.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, and the thing is too, if you have a light on inside, it's nighttime outside, people can see everything going on inside your house at night.
Yes, they can.
And that's what you don't really think about. There used to be that, remember back in the day when you went out of town, you'd leave a light on. So, people thought you were home. But the reality is the smart guys, the burglars that are looking at homes are noticing that light comes on at 6 o'clock every evening or 7 o'clock, and they can see right in. They can see there's no movement. There's nobody sitting in there. That house is empty. And so those days are kind of behind us. And that's, so what would you recommend? Well, first of all, how long do you think this is going to last?
That's the hard part. I study civil conflict and disorder all over the globe, like you. I'm a student of this. I read it and study it every single day. Huh? Well, yeah. My wife's sitting over here too. She said we're in a fourth turning. I'm sure you've read the book, The Fourth Turning, right?
No, I haven't.
Oh, you need to get on that. You need to read that, post haste. Read that book. We are in the middle of a fourth turning right now. So the difference between societal collapses or societal calamities, because it may not be a collapse here, it may just be several years of really hard living. But the difference between every other nation where this happens and here are the people and the freedoms that we possess. So there are more firearms in this country than there are people. And there are trillions of rounds of ammo in the hands of civilians in this country.
Yeah.
So I think certain areas of this country are going to sound like, the Cannonball Run into Baghdad.
Yeah.
For weeks, I think there will be excessive amounts of violence and force.
Like Chicago on a summer night.
Yeah, like Chicago on a summer night, but everywhere.
Yeah.
It'll be bad. It'll be one of those things. We will revert to, hey, it's the sun's starting to go down. We got about another hour of light. We need to wrap this shit up because we need to get inside.
Yeah.
That's going to be the kind of life you're living. During the day, you're going to be out trying to source stuff, food, water, medicine, whatever the hell it is that you need. And it's going to be a hostile environment. I think a lot of people think in terms of like Civil War, where there's going to be battle lines where those are the bad guys over there and we're the good guys back here. We're safe back here. You're not going to be safe anywhere. This is going to be everywhere all at once at the same time. There will be areas where it's going to be like, yeah, that's just a no-go zone. You don't want to go in there because you're going to die. There will be areas like that. But how long it can last, I'm not sure. Our military is fractured in this country as well, which the government has realized now. They've shit on veterans. They've shit on our SF community. The guys that they spent millions of dollars to hone these lethal skills, and then they turn against them. And if we look back through history, we notice a few other leaders that did that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Stalin, people like that. So this could go on for 6 months, or this could go on for a decade. It really depends. And when the violence and the conflict here kicks off, if it's initiated because of a global financial meltdown, which is how I see things going, there's no one to help. There's no one coming at that point. There's we can't look to Canada and be like, hey, we're having a hard time here. Can you guys help us out? They're going to be like, no, we're having a hard time too, boys. Sorry, you're on your own. And I think that, like Alan Kay, my good friend, he always says, distance and pressure dictate tactics. So how far away is the threat? How much pressure is that threat putting you under? That's going to dictate your response. So it's going to be constant. You're going to be making these calculations 1,000 times a day, and they have to happen in a fraction of a second. And it's going to be tough. And the learning curve is going to be 90 degrees straight up. And a lot of people just aren't going to make it to the top of the bell. So it's going to be rough.
Just through natural attrition, I think we'll lean out a lot of that.
Well, and even the bad guys, like I legitimately was talking with a guy one time. He was a police officer, We were talking about prepping and stuff, and I asked him what he was doing. He's like, well, he goes, I'm on the SWAT team. He's like, we kick doors for a living now. He goes, our plan is to just keep kicking doors. And I was like, so you're law enforcement officers and your plan is to just raid homes. And he went, yeah. He's like, it's what we do now.
Yeah.
I said, yeah. I said, you do. I said, but you're going after criminals most of the time. And in most cases, they're not fighting back. I said, you guys are going to have to be perfect every time.
Yeah.
Every single time.
Yeah. Because
that guy inside is only going to be lucky once. You still might get him, but if he gets one of you, and that happens 3 days in a row,
you're so
you no longer have an entry team.
That's right. Yeah, no, you're 100%. You know, it's funny you say that, because everybody that I've talked with that has some sort of skill along those lines, their first mentality, even people that do not have that same mentality of I'm going to just take it from you. I'm not prepping right now because I don't have the money. I'm not doing it. But you know what? When it hits the fan, I'm coming to you. I'm going to take it from you. And that's their plan. And so, so how do you do that we've got about 10 minutes left here? What do you recommend? Like when you have to venture out, say you go bingo on water, right? You're now down to a point where I've got to get out into the mix of this to get water, or I've got to go get food. I've got to venture out to that grocery store that is hot or hostile or potentially hostile. What are your recommendations? How do you get people engaged in that environment without drawing attention to themselves, and allowing them to basically function in that society? What's your recommendation for that?
Well, the first thing I hope they've done is a proper area study, so they know where those resources are to them, and the unconventional resources that may be near them as well. Instead of thinking of the grocery store, Dollar General might have a distribution center 2 miles from your house. It might be easier to go look at that than it is to the actual dollar store. The other thing would be, don't go outside in full battle rattle looking like a tactical mall ninja Navy SEAL guy, because you're just going to be a target. Everybody's going to look like, oh, look at all the cool shit that guy's got on him. Let's get it. Yeah. You're going to want to look as pathetic as everybody else. Don't have your nice, cool tactical pack on your back. You know, a JanSport backpack or a Hello Kitty backpack is going to draw less attention than, a Cry Precision bag on your back. And you need people. You need to have a plan. So you need to have you have to do an op order, literally. And I know a lot of people don't understand this, but you need to plan your route to your target. You need to have your PACE plan: primary, alternate, contingency, emergency. All right. Our plan is we're going to take this route. If this route's compromised, we're going to use this route. If this route's compromised, we're going to use this route. Your return needs to be the same, but it can't be any of your infill routes. That needs to be a separate exfil route. Otherwise, you're establishing patterns of life that people like myself, if I decided to be a bad guy, would exploit like that. And I'll just let you go get all that cool shit and wait for you to start coming home, and I'll take it from you. Yes. The other thing is going to be a security detail. You can't go alone. You know, even if it's only one guy with you, let him provide overwatch while you go down there to fill those water jugs.
Yeah.
Because what are you going to do? You're going to kneel down at the edge of a pond, lake, or something, and you're going to be filling this jug, and that's your field of vision.
Yeah.
You know, unless you're.
Yeah.
And even then, you can't do it. So you need somebody to watch your back. Planning. Be smart. And always know that there's somebody out there that's going to be looking to take what you have. Yeah. First and foremost. It's not a safe world. There's no one coming to save you. And you have to be smart about this, because you only get to fail once. Yeah. That's it. You know?
Yeah, 100%. And that's the key thing you just said. Nobody's coming to save you. The government is going to provide for the government. They're going to take care of themselves first and foremost. In fact, if they are to a point where, I mean, you saw that in World War II, where they'd actually go into houses and basically occupy a house and take over, you know. Oh, yeah. If they needed the soldiers to go in there and take over that house, because they didn't need any authorization. They just went in and did it, right? And so. Yep,
just ours now. Well, and our government possesses all those. They've endowed themselves with all those same rights.
They sure have.
There's executive orders that exist that say that the federal government can come onto your property and seize everything you own, put you on a bus, and send you to wherever they want you to work.
Yes.
We may not believe that, but in my books, those EOs are listed, added into a fictional story, but it explains what the government has given themselves the ability to do. And most people can't fathom things that our government is willing to do to the citizenry of this country.
Yeah, 100%. You mentioned that EO. I know Obama, before he left office, authorized an EO that was a use of force EO against American citizens. It allowed our military to basically take action against a U.S. citizen, so on U.S. soil.
Well, that and he also took the leash off the CIA and said they can spy domestically and the NSA can spy domestically and all that stuff. So we've seen the shift of our government was, that shining city on a hill. Remember those days? The shining city on a hill?
Barely,
yeah. yeah, barely. All right, I remember those days. Yeah. But now it's the government is up on the hill and they're looking down at us. They've taken the high ground. Yes, and they're just looking down at us, behind their gilded wall, because that's where they're at. You're right. They're going to take care of themselves first. Yeah. When we give talks and we talk with people, one of the things that we always say is you are your own first responder, because you're going to be at the place that the bad thing happens when it happens, because it happened to you. So you are your own first responder. And when you completely remove the first responders from the equation, now you are the only responder to your emergency, whatever it may be. And I think people need to get their mindset changed that no one is coming to help me. Make that realization. And it sucks. It's hard. Yeah. Especially for certain age groups of this country to realize suddenly that everything will be their responsibility. It's going to be a bad day. There's a vehicle outside. Can you please see who that is? Sorry.
Sure. Nope, you're good, man. So
yes,
as long as it's not a black SUV, it's
well. I get a little. Ever since my office was burned down, who's out there? Oh, okay. Ever since my office was burned down, I'm pretty sketchy when I hear vehicles around my house. So
yeah, I don't blame you.
Yeah,
for sure.
So, but.
Yeah, I mean, we see it going on in China, right? Where China, the government basically stay in your house, and there's people in there starving, and people are actually jumping off their balconies, committing suicide because they.
And then what did they do? Then they came out and said, "Well, your pet can transmit COVID too," and they sent them Chinese workers door to door.
Yeah.
Taking people's pets out of their house, killing them, and just throwing them in a cart in the street and hauling them away.
Yeah.
I mean, think about that level of depravity. And ignorance too. The level of ignorance says, "Oh, your dog can get COVID and give it to me." I mean, and our government's not above this stuff. I mean, you look at what we've done with experiments, the syphilis experiments back in the 50s, what we did to the Japanese Americans. We are no better than any other country on the face of this earth. We'll do horrible shit to our own citizens in the blink of an eye.
Yeah, we will. Yeah, 100%. Which is stupid from a Chinese perspective because they eat dogs over there, So they're just
once a year during that festival, they do like to kick a dog and then eat it for some reason. I don't do that. Yeah,
horrible actually. So so as we wrap up, we got 3 minutes left. I'd like to talk a little bit about you and what you're doing and what are your plans going forward. We know you've got a website. I put that right there at the bottom of the picture. There's a link in the description, angryamerican.com. I saw a ton of books in there. You have been doing a lot of writing. So
I just published book 11, Engineering Home of the series is now out. The audio book will release June 26th or 21st. 21st? Something like 20-something. 21st. And I'm working on the next one. So we're also still in the process of developing this for a streaming television platform. Hopefully the wheels will stay on this ride long enough that I can pull that off. But I'm just going to keep turning out books. The story of Morgan Carter and his crew is still going on. But I also have a new project that will be starting later this year that's going to focus more on very current events. And it's going to open people's eyes to some of that stuff I was talking about of what our government has endowed themselves with the power to do. Right. Like I imagine most people have no idea that the post office was running social media surveillance. The CDC was doing the same thing. No one gave them authority to do that. They just took it upon themselves and decided to do it. And now we have the Ministry of Truth. Yeah. Like it's almost like you couldn't make it up that, we talked about 1984. We used to joke about that, but we're legitimately living 1984 now.
We are. 100%. It's incredible to look at the amount of surveillance. I'm with you. I watched the military intelligence balloons over our heads every single day, 24/7, sitting up there collecting data on us. And there's at least 11 that I can track on any given point that are at about 70, 80, 90,000 foot up that are just collecting everything we do, watching us, collecting everything we do. It's absolutely insane.
I wanted to ask you about something. I know you watch the planes and stuff a lot. I was on Daytona Beach last weekend, and there was what looked like a Beechcraft twin-engine plane flew parallel to the beach at, it might have been 500 feet up. And I glanced up at it, and out of the belly of that plane, there was a green laser. It was not a nav light. It was a laser. Because when I looked up and saw it, I watched it as it flew over me. And as it came over me, I was actually like, shit. Like, I mean, it was a green laser coming right out of the belly of this thing. And you can see the little port even where it was. You ever seen anything like that?
I have actually seen it. I've seen it at night where they've flown over and they've done some type of imagery using that laser technology. But I'm with you. It's kind of strange to see that, during the day, but I think they do it for mapping purposes, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah,
seems like a weird time to map Daytona Beach on a Sunday when it's packed with people.
Yeah, I would agree with you.
It just struck me as very odd. I'd never seen anything like that. And it just had me thinking. So
yeah, well, and they could be doing other things too, but I have seen that before, and it's a type of it's a technology that they use where they can actually go in and map like all the different stuff and layers of ground. And they may have been looking at beach erosion or some kind of weird thing like that where they can look at current layers, new layers. I've watched them do it over areas in Germany where there used to be, like the Hitler's missile factories and things like that are now grown over. And so they fly over with this technology that actually maps
so it's ground penetrating where they can actually see, like you're saying, subterraneanly. So
yes,
it was it just struck me as odd to be doing that.
Yeah, I mean,
flying perfectly parallel down Daytona Beach with that laser, and he just flew all the way down the beach, and I was just like, "What the hell's going on?" Like,
yeah, that is kind of strange. I agree. It could be something else, but who knows, man? Wild times. It's you just don't know what to.
Well, it's funny what you see when you pay attention.
Yeah. For sure, man. 100%. So, all right, good deal. Well, listen, man, that's the top of our hour. Dude, I seriously thank you for your time, man. I love just picking your brain and seeing what you're seeing. And the fact you're writing a lot of these books about it are very interesting. I actually, I'm going to start listening and just at book one and going all the way through. I saw it in audiobooks. That I was looking at last night, actually, when I couldn't sleep. So I was like, this is really interesting stuff.
Yeah, you can get them all on Audible. They're the same narrator. Duke Fontaine reads them all. He does a great job. He does mispronounce some words, which makes me laugh. But but the audiobooks are fantastic, and I like to tell people that the books are faction, not necessarily fiction.
Yeah.
And I get messages from people constantly, dude, it's like you're predicting the future. Because things that I've put in those books over the years as fiction, we're starting to see some of those things actually occur now.
Yeah.
And so it's some scary times. And like you were talking about my books, I watch every one of your shows. I mean,
nice.
Everything you put out, I watch, and many others, because I'm an intelligence vacuum. I want as much intel. I don't want to be surprised.
Yeah.
I don't want to be the guy that wakes up one morning and goes, "What? The world ended? Well, how'd that happen?"
Hey, but TV's not working, man. What's going on? Yeah.
When I'm at home, anytime the power goes out, I jump up immediately and I'm like, I'll grab a radio, one of my shortwaves, and turn it on and be like, "Oh, the radio stations are still on. We're okay."
Yeah, we're okay. But yeah, I'm with you. It's the little, like, the power goes out, man. I'm looking down the street like, all right, man, what's going on? Make sure I don't have some guys breaching my wall and killing my power,
And we live a few miles from a naval bombing range.
Oh, wow.
And last weekend they were live bombing.
Yeah.
Live bombing. We can hear them up there all the time, practice bombing, but they're dropping live ordnance the other day, which they do periodically, but seems to be getting a little more frequent.
They're warming up, man. I'm telling you, war is on the horizon, no doubt about it. So
yes, it is.
All right, brother. Well, hey, listen, I appreciate your time again, man, and I'd love to have you come back on the show as things start to continue.
Anytime. Yeah.
Okay.
Anytime. Love to talk. Love talking with you, man. And you got a great audience too. And I know we got a lot of crossover, so it's always fun to do these with you.
Yeah, awesome. All right, good deal, man. Well, hey, I'm gonna send us off. For those that watched the show today, thank you for your time. And for those that did super stickers, I really appreciate it. We can't do it without you. And so you guys be safe out there. Stay frosty. God bless. Monkey out.